So, we have this spontaneous podcast, or what you want to call it. I'm Joachim Häggström, sitting here with Caleb.
Hello, I'm Caleb Lamont.
Yes, and we have like similar interest, you could say. um, I don't think a lot of people know about your background and what you do. You have been on Enslaved too a couple of times, I know. But
Yes,
for people who
I
doesn't know about Enslaved, and it's can you make like a brief background on your stuff, Caleb? Would be interesting.
I made my premiere uh, on Unslaved when I republished a book called "Disappeared Off the Face of the Earth" by Jim Cairns, um, and that book is no longer available. However, that was my premiere. The book itself was about witch cults in Ireland. Witch cults that incidentally were connected up with the born again Christians and the terrorists on both sides.
Like the
Yeah,
the like the Protestant thing there, or um,
both
okay,
the the Catholics and the Protestants, and the born agains, which were not Protestant per se. They were um, more of a charismatic type of thing from America, but they were all interconnected.
mm,
So to the general public, it looked like a bunch of different factions that were at each other's throats. In reality, there was um, a dark force that was moving in and among all of the different factions.
what time are we talking about this?
This was during the Troubles in Ireland, which lasted from 1972 all the way up through the late 90s.
Okay. I mean, this Protestant thing has also been on my table a lot because I'm into like Swedish history, and the Protestantism in Sweden. Sweden was completely Protestant, at least on paper. It became like the stronghold for the Protestant movement here in Sweden, and the kings of Sweden, like the Vasa, who I like to study because they have also some kind of tie to the heathen families of old there. Um, but people have different theories and angles you can look at it, but I think it's really interesting with this Protestant versus the Catholic thing. And Ireland, of course, became like a battleground for it, I would imagine.
Well, the Catholics did not want anybody to actually have access to the Bible.
Mm,
And the Protestants, um, if I recall correctly, what started that was the publication of the Bible, and the Protestants had access to it, so they
yes.
gave everybody access to read it. And even today, from what I understand, the Catholic Church still actually doesn't want their members to actually read the Bible. They want their members to go to church and listen to the priest
Yes.
tell them about the Bible, because only the priest has the wisdom to interpret it the right way. Because if you try to do it yourself, then you're just going to be confused.
Yes, also this is a very, very, very true. It seems to be like in the heart of the Protestant movement because if you look at the events of in the 1500s in Germany, it wasn't called Germany, but like Lübeck and those states, or what you, but it's a product of the Catholic world in the, what do you call it, the Holy Roman Empire, I think they called it. But it seems to be a theme with the Protestant that they wanted to give like the power of reading and writing to the people because like the Catholics they wanted to have monopoly over that art, so to speak. And yeah, it seems to be the thing. You know, the printing press came in the same time as the you know the Lutheran Church also came to rise. It's just a very interesting time period in history, I think, which led to other interesting periods also. Like, yeah, they really.
Who are the forces that want to? Who are the forces that want to keep us in ignorance versus who are the forces that actually want to see us
Well,
be enlightened?
yeah, that becomes very obvious in this scenario, very much so. I mean, as I understand it, all those Vasa kings, it's a good example. Also, that's my main reference to go to because Sweden created the first church outside of the Catholic. The Church of Sweden is the oldest, even older than Church of England by like 8 years. But it's a Protestant-based church, you could say. And as I understand it, those Vasa kings who ruled Sweden during the time, or Gustav Vasa himself, who also made the first publication, the written book in Swedish, which was called Gustav Vasa's Bible. It's the first book in Swedish, but they wanted in the Protestant, you know, this is for a fact in Sweden, they gave like the Bible to the home instead of them needing to go to church to read the Bible or to hear about the God's word or what you want to call it. I mean, it's but it has led to people in Europe being literate, and you can see like in the Middle East, for instance, with the Muslims, they have like their imams who can read, and it's very few, I think, who really can read. But maybe they have gotten more modern. But they seem to be stuck in this more that it's the priest that has the knowledge because of the book, and yeah, it seems to be. I mean, the church or the Christian thing has become evolved, or it has happened something with it with the Protestant. Um, yeah, seems to be. I think I just thought about Trump being a Protestant also. I think in America. It's a battle still going.
He did some stuff with the evangelists, which I don't really like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he studied the Kabbalah as well.
Mm. But he has some. He's like friends with Israel, I know, or he's yeah. He seems to be like a very old conflict. This
something I want to say about that. I know a lot of guys who don't particularly like that country.
Yeah.
And they would prefer if those people would leave their countries because they don't consider them as Western people. So my question would be, then why would you not want them to have their own country?
You're talking about the Americans, or
Israel.
Israel. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bloody history what has been happening there, but it's all about this religious stuff. They justify it because it says something in a book that is old. I mean, I know a story about this Moses also, but I don't know if I'm gonna go into it. In the Finnish mythology, they have stories about those people also, and where they come from. I think it's very interesting. Yeah, in the book Saga, there's stories about Moses, or it's a woman in this story called Morses, and she was supposed to lead the gypsies to the Holy Land, but the Holy Land, in this perspective, is in Finland, like the hell or the whole E. It has to do with the linguistic, but they really they never got to all the way up to the north, and in this story they settled, and she is some kind of flip out story where she leads the Jews, and in this case, in the Finnish mythology, the Jews comes from India. They are like the rabbis that lost their job, so to speak, when Krishna took over, and sort of corrupted India from its heathendom. It's very interesting. And she also had this Hebrew.
Do you equate rabbis with heathens?
Yes, it's like a title from the heathen world, so to speak. It's the you could translate it to English like one pollinator of the king. As a rabbi or rabbi, we say. One bee is like one insect who pollinates. One what do you call it?
Flower?
Wasp.
Oh,
Yeah,
wasp.
yeah. It's one bee. The small one is one bee, and the Ra is the king.
So what a lot of people don't realize is that the stories and the traditions and everything that the Jews claim as theirs originates from the West.
Yes.
And the Old Testament, all of these place names, Judea, Jerusalem.
Yes. All those.
All of the
Yeah.
Eden, Sodom and Gomorrah, etc., etc., etc. People think those are places in the Middle East.
Paradise. They have concepts, and all those concepts seems to be like drawn from earlier mythology or earlier.
The fact is that just because you can look at a map today and find all of those names in the Middle East, that's only been the case since after the Crusades. Those stories and those names, those place names, are very, very old. And it was only during the times after the Crusades, when they translated those texts, that they started to attribute those locations in the Middle East. Before that, those stories applied to places in the far west and the far north.
Yes.
Like Ireland, Britain, Scotland, Norway, Sweden, Finland.
Yes, Russia.
Yeah.
But it's like, for instance, the word Jerusalem, or we would say more like Jerusalem. As a rose is a rose, or a rouse. What do you call it? Rose. It's like it
And the
has,
Vikings are Rus, right?
yeah, the Rus or the Russians. It's like Rusland, we could say about the Russia, or we in Sweden we say Ryssland, but the older name for it is like Rusland. Yeah, it has to do with the Rose family. It's it's like a one section of the Asur family from the old heathen culture. Also, if you look
I have a
at,
question.
yes,
You just said Osser family.
yes,
Um, in the Norse mythology, they talk about the Aesir and the Vanir.
yes,
Do you know, would the Osser family be the Aesir? And if so, who are
yes.
the Vanir?
It's the same. The Vanir, or Vaner we call it. It's like the subclass of people, you could say, or the lower class people, the farmers, the ordinary man, so to speak. Meanwhile, the Asur is like the elite, like we have today. I've been very much into like Yuri Lina's work on, he talks about the Russian revolutions and the French revolutions and all of those revolutions, Illuminati, all this kind of shit. But it seems to be like those networks that has been controlling Europe. Also, this is my take on it. Is that during like the French revolutions, those Templar networks, you could say, became infiltrated, and they have been using those kind of Templar network ever since. That has been built by other people that has been exterminated, so to speak. I know from the book Saga people that Romanov from Russia was one of the last heads of the Templar Knights order from its origin, so to speak. But it's very interesting take on it.
When were the Templars infiltrated, and by who?
I think it started to happen around the French revolutions, because France and Sweden, during this time, Sweden was a superpower in Europe, and you have in the same time the conflicts in America, which seems to be like with the Civil War and all of this, all this happened at once, and it seems to be like some kind of battle against something that is underneath the surface, that isn't like countries going to war against each other. It seems to be like a conflict within the orders, and I assume that there's a movie called Assassin's Creed, which is based on the Assassin's Creed video games, and I watched that movie, and I think they are like onto something, because it's this battle between the Knights Templars and Assassin's Creed, and there seems to be some kind of seems to be like this.
That will never be written in our history books.
No, but it's there. I mean, Gustav Vasa the Third, or Gustav Adolf the Third, he was assassinated. They assassinate. Their trademark is to kill, with assassinations, and this kind of, you see it still today with the assassinations. But
you still have not answered the question: who infiltrated?
that's the shady thing, Caleb. I mean, I think it's I call it the religious force. Like that's how I see it. I see it the old heathen families that want to try to preserve and and protect the legacy of the Western people, so to speak. It seems to be like a battle between those old royal houses that has been, they were in power before, all those aristocrats and aristocratic people from Europe. I think it's those families.
Let me clarify. Are you saying that these families infiltrated the Templars?
No, it's the reverse. They had control.
Okay.
They had control over those different orders, but they are like part of the same network, as it seems.
Gotcha.
But it seems to be with Napoleon, because there's also a story about Napoleon in the book Saga, and it's just a quick mention about Napoleon. He is brought into the order, and he's having his like baptism and all of this in the old heathen style, but he sold them out once he got in, and they were going after all the aristocrats everywhere. It has been the theme all the way up to today. Even in Russia with the revolutions there, they went into Finland, they killed all people who could speak Swedish because they belonged to their aristocratic families they knew.
I think I can shed some light on that.
Yeah.
It comes from the Masonic ritual, where it's called it's Hiram Abiff, right? Hiram Abiff. Have you heard of that?
No.
Hiram Abiff was the architect for King Solomon, and he was murdered by Jabbalam, and Jabba something. But those three assassins are called the Jewes, Juwes. And in Freemasonry, there's a ritual, and I think it's the first degree. Like as soon as you get in, there's a ritual where you dress up as Hiram Abiff and get killed by these three assassins, and that ritual is based on the murder of a pharaoh in ancient Egypt. And that pharaoh's mummy, when they dug it up, they found the injuries on the body that match the same injuries in the ritual, because there's this, you'll have to read about the ritual, but it's like there's three injuries that they inflict on him. Each of the three assassins inflicts a specific type of injury on the victim, so it's this ritual. But what you're saying about this tendency, or this recurring theme of infiltration and subversion and assassination, sounds like something that's very old.
Yes. I was just curious. Do you know what kind of costume those assassins had, or some kind of outfit? Is there any description? I mean,
the thing that I remember is that each one of them had a tool. I think one of them was a square. The other one was like a hammer. I don't remember. It's the tools of Freemasonry. Like when you see the compass and the square, they use these hand tools. But I don't know what they were dressed like.
Okay, because the assassination of Gustav III, they had what you would call, have you seen this Vendetta movie? This anonymous mask, the white mask.
Yes.
Yeah, those guys who killed Gustav III, they had white masks and black robes, with like hats, exactly like a anonymous type figure that you will see today. And I'm very
That comes from the gunpowder plot, I think, was the first. Um, it's called the Guy Fawkes mask. I think that comes from the gunpowder plot.
it's very
But yeah,
interesting.
it's all this subversive cloak and dagger, um,
Yes,
anti-aristocrat.
yes,
Basically, it's what communism springs out of.
yeah. That's exactly what they did in Russia. You know, all those millions of people who died there, like in concentration camps or whatever. Most of them were like from the aristocratic families. They were like the first to go, and it seems to be like the same thing happening in France. It's the same theme, so to speak.
Let
It,
me ask you a question.
yeah.
Would you say that even as far back as the days of the Bach Saga,
Mm.
when the Earth was still straight up and down,
Yeah, not
do you
tilted.
think there were certain groups of people who were jealous of the hierarchy that existed?
I don't know. It's a tough question. I can't really answer that because the only thing we know from the paradise, what they call it before the tilt, they call that period the paradise time, and the only thing we have on it is it's stored into the Finnish language mainly. The language that they use in Finland have like the key to the paradise, like Ior put it, and that's what we know because it's only the system, but it's in very great detail. So a Finnish person who also knows Swedish, he has a lot of knowledge in his brain because it's all stored into the language, and it's so long time ago, Caleb. So we it's like nothing remains except that this has been stored into the languages, and it contains the system and how it's work also with all its details. It's a very heavy thing to dig into, but you also have to know Finnish to get the full picture. But that's what we have. We don't know. It's no like history about that time. No, there's like they had those three crystal balls that come from the lore, and one of the crystal balls is like special crystal balls with a prism, or it's a crystal within the crystal ball. It's some kind of amplifier, or I don't know how it works, but they had one that belonged to the paradise time and one to the Atlantis or the Atlantis time, which is the Ice Age basically, and one future ball. So if they dig those up in Finland, they say exactly where they are in the mythology and everything. So maybe we can, I don't know. You know, this is the gypsy, we call them, or it's the mystical woman's job, really, to handle the crystal ball in this story.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think it would be better if those treasures remained buried for a little longer.
yeah, yeah, that's
In our
true.
present day, people are too stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world also. I know that Putin is aware of the book Saga also. He had, in his younger days, he had some interest there in Finland about the book Saga. And I think it's an interesting aspect because, yeah, Finland is in between. It's it's a very weird time. It reminds me a little bit about the Second World War, or the beginning of the Second World War, the scenario we have today. Actually, it very similar.
Well, there's something interesting, man, which I'll tell you. Um, Emmanuel Velikovsky, in his book Mankind and Amnesia, discovered a pattern discovered a pattern of wars that were large scale wars, and it's that they came in periods of 104 years, and half that they also came in 52-year periods, and half of that they also came in 26-year periods. So if you look at the Civil War, which was also during the French Revolution,
Exactly, it's the same
and then
conflict.
Time it out to World War One, and time that out to World War Two. They're all in 26-year intervals. So I read this book maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I counted it out, and I'm like, okay, so I guess we're due for another war here next year. It's going to be 2018. 2018 came and went, and there was no major war.
What we know of, I mean, the Middle East is always warring, it seems. I mean,
but according to the pattern,
yeah.
What I'm saying is that the pattern was broken.
Okay.
According to this, we would have been in some major war in 2018, and so far we haven't. So that could be a good sign that something has changed for the better.
It's changing. It becomes unpredictable, perhaps. I mean, it's
maybe things are getting too good, and that's why they started all this bullshit.
I mean, it could have been like a Cold War also that we really don't know about. I mean, it's a tough.
I'm talking. Well, with this, it's specifically referring to like massive full-scale war, all-out war.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which,
that's interesting.
If the pattern had repeated, it would have been. That's what it's saying. Is that in these 26-year periods, you have these outbreaks, but there wasn't one, so that's a good sign.
Yes, but what was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, I wanted to just mention something when you talked about what forces with the French Revolution and all of this. I've been researching that quite extent and tried to see. There's a lot of lodges popping up around this time also in France, new orders, and one of them is called like the Six Sisters, and in like the Knights Templar order, females are absolute forbidden all the way up to today. All masonry was like that in Europe, at least. No woman allowed, as we know, but that's like the main overall policy. But it's just interesting to see this kind of more female order coming up in France that is still running today, called like the Six Sisters.
I think it's the Nine Sisters.
9 sisters, yeah, 6 or 9, something like that, yeah. Good, you corrected me there. But I can't help to not think about like Michael Tsarin's work.
That lodge actually might also be an all-male lodge.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know there's an order called the Odd Fellows.
Okay.
And I think that is a female order, and they call it the Odd Fellows because a female. It's a play on words because a female is an odd fellow, right? Because, I mean, you must be kind of odd for a fellow if you're actually not a fellow. If you're not a fella.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it becomes like that, like when we say hey in Sweden, that comes from the Templars. It's, they have been working on language and art and what we perceive, art, music, all those kind of higher arts, so to speak.
I had a friend who was in. Well, no, sorry. I had a friend who was Lithuanian, or his ancestry was Lithuanian, and he turned me onto this book. I still haven't read it. It's called The Last Crusade, and it's about these. I think it was basically a crusade against the Lithuanian heathens, and I think it was run by like the Knights, the Teutonic Knights, or something like that. See, to me, I hear what you're saying, and you might be right.
It's very,
In my mind, it was like the Knights, Templars, and everything were never good to begin with, from what I understood.
yeah, that's the common perception of it. Yes.
And I hear what you're saying, though.
Yes.
But I would say that they originally stole from older groups, because the Germans were always horseback riders.
Yes, it's the knight. The knight symbol or the knight title come from the heathen society. It's so obvious because they have heathens. They have temples. They are the knights of the temple, or the Knights Templars we call them. It's in the linguistic, and I've been researching this quite extent. The earliest lodges you can find in the world, what I have been finding, is here in the north, like in Stockholm area, like Uppsala. The old.
Did you ever hear that the word Templar actually means template?
No, I never heard.
Like a blueprint or a map type of thing, like a template, referring to maps.
Yeah, it has many. As I mean, it depends on what language you express yourself in. I mean, in the English, Knights Templars, it becomes like a template. Yes, but in Swedish, for example, they are called Tempelriddare, Knights of the Temple, rendered in English. I mean, it's when you look at Tempelriddare. Riddare is a knight, or
a rider.
Yes, exactly. Riddare. And it's a reference straight.
The temple riders.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes. And it's a reference to. I mean, it's because this Vasa family. I talk about the Vasa family all the time, but they are such important because they are coming from a sideline from the Bock family, according to. It's a Finnish family line taking power over Sweden, and becomes a superpower in Europe, and they are really warfare-ish, nothing to be glamorous about, but the only ones they were going after were really like the religious people and the heads of those orders, and they seem to have been doing some kind of really establishment over Europe, all the way up to, from the 1500s all the way up to the French Revolution, where it started to go sour for them. That's my perspective. And during this time they were doing things to uplift humanity, as I see it, with the rights that you don't have under like a caliphate rule, or even under the Catholic rule. I mean, it's a very dark world to live under when you have this kind of totalitarian religious, when they are, complete system. Yeah, this is how I see it, but it's only based on like things that I have been reading, and I've been really into the aristocratic families from Sweden because they were like a center part in this, even in America. Uh, you have in America you have like the same currency that we had in Sweden during that time, like this gold backed, and we called it dollar. But you got dollar or dollar. It's dollar, but you call it dollar. It's the same. We call it svenska riksdaler. It's the same.
Has Charles the First of England ever come up in your studies?
Charles, no. Um, the ones that I have been looking into is the stewards. They were sitting in England for a while, but I think they went to like Scotia, Scotland, or I could be wrong there, but I'm not in a place to say. But
There
uh,
was some bleed over.
I know that England and Sweden had really good relations after Gustav Vasa took power, anyway. And it seems to be, Sweden really built the English fleet during their expansion because they couldn't. All the ropes and hemp sails and the tar came from the Swedish Empire. So Sweden really built
Uh,
the fleet of England. That's interesting.
were When's the last time that the nobility of Sweden and Finland were heathen?
1050 uh, AD. All those stories about Santa Claus being away, up in the Arctic. These are stories when the Finnish what do you call it, the Asar family or the Finnish royalty were in exile because they took this approach when they just moved north to live with the Sami people. And it's a lot of stories coming out of that, which brings the lore that we got from Finland, about the Santa Claus and all those interesting stories that even Tolkien were very interested in. I know that Gandalf, for example, in The Lord of the Rings, he's based on Väinämöinen, which is a figure from Finland. An heathen figure.
One of the dwarfs and the poetic Edda was named Gandalf.
Hmm. Yes, this Edda, people ask me about this Edda also, and I'm like, okay, I read a little bit about in the Edda. It's like poems, but some poems are really interesting because it seems, the thing about such old texts is that when you translate it over and over again, the it becomes like modernized, or it loses its root, you could say, from what it was. And if you look back, I can read the original texts because Icelandic at that time is very close to the root or the Swedish language because they belong to that kind of language group, the Germanic languages. And yeah, interesting stories, but it's in a format that must have been been written by a Christian, to be honest.
It said as well that all of these different things that are mentioned in the Lord of the Rings, like the rings, the swords, the crystal balls, and the fountain, or not the fountains, but like the water thing. I guess the fountain.
Yeah,
Like where
I
you
think
can
about
drink with
Galadriel and
it.
her like water mirror and
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
these kind of things. Yeah.
exactly. All of these different things in the movie or in the book. I mean, um, they come from things that are mentioned in these old poems. Like
Yes.
there was an Icelandic poem that talks about the rings.
Yeah, I know. It's very interesting, small stories, and if you look at it from what it says, it becomes very clear that it has to do with heathendom. I mean, it's written in such a poetic way that it's easy for the modern mind to, if you have no idea about how they were even thinking back then, it's very hard to even translate or, attempt to read it. I mean, it's imagine like in 1,000 years, and we are talking about something. We have those small, short references about things, that everyone know. But maybe in 1,000 years, when someone read, they got a completely different understanding of what we are saying. Perhaps very similar. We use sort of the same words for some things, but what I'm saying is that there's something you need to sort of look at it from a child's perspective. That's how I work with those kind of things, to just try to strip it down without the modern perception of things. And it becomes very interesting when you do that with the Edda, and I call it like the lens of the book Saga. It's a very nice couple of Googles you can put on, you could say, because you get on really another perspective on everything, like history. It seems to be like everything is the opposite. That's what I can say. Like everything is the opposite of what they say today. Seems to be also like a thing that yeah.
Let's go back to the assassins.
Okay. This is very shady. I've been trying to track the Templars as good as I can, but it's so much chaos happening in France, so we don't really know. I've been trying to research Napoleon a little bit also, and where he comes from, but what I know, what is significant about him, is that he has like 100 cousins. And I'm thinking like maybe he comes from a Muslim group. I think it's the Muslims, to be honest. But I don't wanna like put a stamp on it. But seems to be.
That is damn interesting.
It's very simple to say so, but I call them the religious forces. I mean, they are the strongest of them now. But maybe they control all religions, and maybe Christianity. I have even been thinking about Christianity being like some kind of weapon. To bring down the heathendom in Europe. And because the New Testament is a conversion from the traditions or the festival days from the heathen times, and this they know. It's like a calendar or a calendar, you say. I mean, it's stolen concepts that has been stolen. That it's for the Western people. This kind of Catholic. It seems to be a weapon, like communism. It's a weapon also. That's how I see it, Caleb. Big questions. I mean, it's just it's so much to dig into, because the more recent you come up in history, the more things so much things are documented. But if you look at history from like 1500s, it's only like in the Royal Archives, and you can see just a little bit what has been happening. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really say what's going on today, and if this, where they are, or that's not really my table. But I think it's damn interesting to look at it from this perspective. That what I'm talking about.
But it seems that there's a group uh, that want to eliminate the actual bloodline uh, holders of these positions and seize those positions for themselves.
Yes. But if you look at
And
Christianity, oh, sorry, Caleb.
and is it just a process of destruction, or is it jealousy and they want to have what belongs to somebody else?
I think they want like this world domination because they have stories about paradise, and they, in this book Saga, they talk about the Morses or the Moses is a Moses being a woman, and she had stories according to the book side here. She had stories about the paradise and all of those concepts that the religious world now have. I mean,
So is their ultimate plan to reshape the world into their own version of what the world used to be?
I think I don't know if they have such grand plans. I think it's just, I mean, in the
They just
Quran,
want control,
in the
is what you're saying. Just plain and simple control.
yeah, if you just look at the Muslims, I mean, it's in the book that they say one day the caliphate will take over the world and become one big caliphate, as a caliphate. That's in there. I mean, that's their goal. I mean, I don't know what Christianity or I mean, the Protestant version of the Bible is probably different than the Catholic version. Also, I mean, it's who knows, Caleb. I mean, but I know that in the Quran they talk about this global caliphate, yeah, that they want to establish, the Sharia. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So I mean, people are like ridiculing all of that, but if it's in the holy book, that's the way. I mean, it should be like that.
It's right in our fucking faces.
Yeah. But they say, they have different methods that we have been seeing. Like you can see I've been a little bit talking about this recently about how they want to take control over the history and the culture since old. Like here in Sweden, we can see like the Viking shows and all of this. It's all about blood sacrifice, this kind of blood cult. This they want to portray it like they are a blood sacrificing. It has to do with blood, but if you look from the Väinämöinen or Boksaga stories, it has nothing to do about blood. Nothing in the culture has to do about blood. I haven't even heard about blood and anything about it. It's what they call like the water, the life water or the holy water. It has to do with like the sperm and the fertility things, liquids, fluids from human beings that are not blood. I mean, completely different story. It's I get very angry when I look at these Viking shows because they don't. I've been researching this so hard, and I can see that it's lodges here in Sweden that are draconian orders, and they ain't even hiding it. I think they have been changing name now, but
What kind of orders did you say?
Ordo El Draco, they have some kind of monopoly over they deal with runes, uh, and all of this. I know.
Draconian order. Is that what you said?
What did you say, Caleb?
Draconian order? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
yes.
Okay.
I have been contacted by those orders because I've been researching and reading the books that are coming out from the people who are involved, and they seem to be drawing in all those people who are curious about the Vikings and going a little bit deeper, you know. So they have this gatekeeping thing about the knowledge that they are presenting, and famous musicians from Sweden and all kind of people from different ranks are a part of those orders, and it's very dominant. So what I see also is like the enemy, when they go this draconian approach to take over a country or a culture, they need to like take control over the history aspect also, and the cultural.
They bait and hook with that
Yes,
until yeah.
it's a slow process,
That's
but
that's what the Nazis did. They put on all of this symbolism that they knew the Germans would gravitate towards, but they didn't actually believe in that. Well, they didn't actually really care about those traditions. That was just there on on uh, on the surface to attract people.
yes,
That's all it was.
yes, and they put them into loops.
And they also need to be the gatekeepers of it. So they're the gatekeepers of it, so they can be like, well, if you're interested in this, you need to come to us.
Yes,
Right?
exactly like that. I mean, it's just the books are very shallow, and it doesn't really give you the answers that you need. Talking from my experience, but I started to mail those authors who have been writing the books. There's one book that is called The Night Side of the Runes, which is very popular, and he's like a head of the one of those draconian orders who has been writing that book. And I I was kind of like confused over that. I thought it was some kind of person who, you know, an ordinary person, and I got to this kind of department just by sending this mail, and they wanted instantly for me to pay them so I could join the club. But I rejected that, and found other interesting things.
Wow.
But yeah, we have been glossing over so many subjects now. Or well, we have the red thread, I guess, but I mean it's
I see the same shit going on here, man. Yep.
yeah, I know. I'm looking at your website right now, Caleb, and I can't help to notice that you have like there's one LAN in Sweden with this club guy, the red club guy there, the wild man.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's it's on my heraldry.
yeah, but we have exactly that figure in one like what do you call it? Not district, but provinces.
Lapland.
Provinces.
It's in Lapland, right?
Yes, it's Lapland. Yes, yes. It's very there's a huge statue on that guy when you enter that area here that you can visit. But that's interesting with the heraldry. We have been working a little bit on that also. It's a tough, but all this kind of heraldry symbolism seems to be coming from those aristocratic families. You know, they have the knowledge of the heathendom, and all the swords, the clubs, and shields, and all of this is symbolical aspects that refers to the old heathen system. What I have been finding. So you should probably originate from some kind of more prominent heathen family, Caleb.
Yeah.
Of Ireland.
Yeah, it traces back to the High Kings of Ireland, all the way back to the Kings of Tara.
I think they portray them a little bit in this very fancy, nice movie called Brave. It's like a children's tale. You know about this? I think I tipped you off at some point about that movie, Caleb, because it has to do with the Irish mythology. A children's movie, you could say, animated.
I'll check it out. I haven't seen it.
Brave, very nice. I think it has to do with Ireland, or I could be a little bit mistaken. You have to double check me on that one. You know, Scotland and Ireland is really easy to you know, it's sort of the same for me. But not really, of course. I mean, but very similar cultures, it seems, right?
Which ones?
Scotland and Ireland.
Oh, linguistically, they both have Gaelic.
Yeah, they have this very funny talk. It's very. I think it's one of the more original forms of English.
They're pretty different, I would say.
Okay.
As far as, but originally they were pretty closely linked.
Yeah, I think so also. They are so close also, you know, geography-wise.
Yeah, I think it's 30 miles at the closest point across the water.
It's like the Danish and the Swedish in one way. I mean, the Danish, we are very different, but we are very much alike also, culture-wise. So, yeah, Caleb, I feel that kind of running out of steam. It's very late for me now, but I think we had an interesting conversation anyway. I mean, running on the last sip of fuel in my brain.
You're always drinking tea.
Yes, of course.
You should move to Britain.
No, they don't. They don't drink real tea, Caleb. They don't drink the real tea.
That's what they say about us over here. We don't drink the real tea.
Well, I gathered my tea by myself, so I know exactly what it is.
We have Lipton tea over here.
Okay, I have what do you call it? Svartvinbär. I think it's like not black raspberries, maybe. Yeah, it's a berry bush. You can gather it in the early spring before the berries comes around. Becomes all red. The leaves. It's very awesome. Could recommend. Yeah. So.
Can I move over there? Do you need a roommate?
Hmm?
Do you need a roommate? Can I move over there?
I'm living in a very small apartment, Caleb, but you know, you're always welcome here.
Alright.
Alright, Caleb. We're fooling around too much now.
Have a good day.
Well, I'm going to sleep. So sleep tight, Caleb. We talk another time.
It's good talking to you.
Same. Likewise, you said.